Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of The Gavel, featuring attorney Ana Toledo. Ms. Toledo is the senior attorney and general counsel for Targeted Justice. She has a background in constitutional and environmental law and is an experienced litigator, including 2 cases at the U.S. Supreme Court. And here's Ms. Toledo.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here another week for this Gavel episode number 30. This is a podcast for those of you that are new and don't know. This is a podcast dedicated to bringing you the latest news relevant to the community of the victims of government weaponization, as well as important updates in our fight against this horrific program. Things you should be aware of and actionable advice for you to take your own measures. A gavel is traditionally used to bring attention to important things. It's not just reserved for judges or justices of the peace. No, it's also to bring the attention to those things that you should be paying attention to. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ana Toledo. I am an attorney with more than 30 years experience as a litigator. And even though my expertise is in environmental law, which is how I got into this horrific program, and First Amendment law, defending journalists that were doing investigative journalism and newspapers, well, now I am fully dedicated to the fight for human and civil rights. Like many of you, I also want to be free. And that is why I'm here every week trying to inspire you to continue fighting back. My goal is that of exposing this horrific program. That is why I have moved to Washington, D.C. to knock on the doors of those people that are capable of exposing this horrific program and helping us all shut it down. I have to begin, as I have been doing since the very first day that I started this podcast. And I want to repeat a Bible verse that I have read many times before, but it is just so appropriate. And this time, Steve Baker, which is a journalist with The Blaze, put it out there saying, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rules of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." And we all know that that's exactly what we face every day in this horrific program. But we are stronger, and we are here because of the grace of God. And we're going to continue doing what we were placed here to do. And so please, I want to ask you, it doesn't cost you anything. Like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to our platforms in Rumble, Real Targeted Justice, in YouTube, as well as in Twitter and in the other social media. It really helps us fight censorship. I'm going to show you what they've been doing to one of our star digital warriors, Starling. He has been placed a label by Twitter saying that he's not entirely truthful. And so the effect this has is that people don't see his post. He's being shadow banned. So I urge you, please follow him. His handle is TI6056. Let's get back to Twitter. Let's follow him. Everybody watching this, please follow him and repost his content. We have to teach these people they're not supposed to be messing with the First Amendment that they say that they are the champions of First Amendment. And in fact, this week, Mr. Elon Musk has been fighting with the people from the European Union. So my inkling is that it's not Musk. He doesn't know that the government criminals are infiltrating his platform, number one, Or number two, he still has working at X the people that worked for Twitter and were doing the illegal shenanigans with the FBI and NSA criminals. That's my inkling. Okay, so please like, share, subscribe. Let's defeat these people. Let's teach them that we are more people and more powerful. So there have a lot of things have been happening. Like I just mentioned, Elon Musk is the only one that didn't sell out to the European Union, saying because they wanted X to censor people, and he said no. And so European Union is telling him, well, we're going to fine you. The other people took money, the Facebooks, the Instagram, all of the other people took money, but not Elon Musk. He doesn't need it, right? So I hope that the United States government does something to punish the people over there in Europe trying to, but then Elon Musk has to take care of the shadow banning going on in his own platform carried out by government criminals. Because let's start with this Operation Mockingbird
narrative that it was
alive
so
and kicking. Hold on, let me start it from the beginning. This is Miss Tulsi, our favorite government official who is fighting the criminals. Listen to this.
Propaganda mechanism. We saw it flatly. I mean, I think it's the smoking gun, quite frankly, of the Obamagate narrative and the Russiagate narrative, that it was so baked in that the New York Times and Washington Post went and ran with it. Some would say that that's part of Operation Mockingbird. Some would say that that's part of what we learned in the Church Committee, that the intel agencies were using media outlets as their mouthpieces, and that those mouthpieces would parrot the official narrative. And I wanted to ask you, is this operation still going on? Are you aware of the intel agencies working directly with media outlets in order to push prescribed narratives that may or may not be true?
It's something that we've already had to deal with, Benny, within this administration, where there are people within the intelligence community who believe that their will is more important than the will of the American people, and will weaponize intelligence by leaking it to their friends within the mainstream media with the intent of undermining President Trump's agenda. It is not one that he hasn't already talked about in every rally and town hall that he did throughout the campaign. I don't even know how many there were, but President Trump is enacting the very thing he promised the American people he would do in this election. So people in the intelligence community, they may agree, they may disagree. That's not the point here. As intelligence professionals, as people who work in the national security space, in the intelligence community, they are required to fulfill their mandate to their oath to the Constitution of the United States and to the President of the United States, who was duly elected by the American people.
There you have it. So Ms. Tulsi here, who is doing, she's doing the work that we have asked for so long to happen. You know, you may remember that in the 1970s, the Senate's Church Committee and journalist Carl Bernstein revealed that the CIA had cultivated relationships with journalists, editors, and publishers, sometimes paying them out to insert pro-US narratives and pro-CIA narratives into the press. We're going to talk about that a little later. So while the agency announced in 1976 that it would no longer maintain paid relationships with accredited journalists, it left open the possibility of voluntary cooperation, a loophole that critics say could allow the practice to continue in another form. Well, doesn't that sound like MK Ultra? That they said, no, we stopped the human experimentation, but now it's being contracted to a lot of defense contractors, doctors, hospitals, research institutions. Yeah, they're carrying out the experimentation, and the CIA never really quit. So another good news is that Tulsi Gabbard plans to cut nearly 50% of the budget, $700 million of the budget of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Now, this this cutting off of budgets includes, for example, dismantling the Foreign Malign Influence Center. Its core functions were transferred to the National Intelligence Council. It was deemed redundant. It was accused of being used by the previous administration to justify the suppression of free speech and to censor political opposition. She's also eliminating the Cyber Threat Intelligence Integration Center, which is also redundant with other entities already handling cyber intelligence. Eliminating, streamlining the education of the National Intelligence University. Should be called National Perp University, but anyway, so basically she has I think this is a step in the good direction, because as this whole intelligence apparatus shrinks, so does the money for the weaponization of the government against innocent Americans. Now, the CIA has been in the news for so long, and recently this one was a surprise because Mr. Brennan admitted that it's not only a spy agency, but it's a blackmail agency. And when you listen, I'm first going to put Scott Adams, one of my favorite influencers, Scott Adams, and his comment, because he's just so wise. He doesn't realize he's targeted, but I think he is very targeted. Just listen to Mr. Adams here.
A video of him recently in which he said the CIA pays people to be spies and then blackmails them if they change their mind. So what they try to do, the CIA, according to Brennan, is that they try to make sure that the spy takes some money when it's early on in the relationship, because if the spy has taken money and then they get cold feet later and they think maybe it's too risky and they don't want to do it, then the CIA could just sort of whisper to him, so then you don't want to take money for spying against your home country. Is that what you're saying? No, don't tell anybody. I thought we had a deal. Oh, we do have a deal. Yeah, I'm just trying to get clear. Are you saying that you're no longer going to take money for spying against your home country? Now, just that question alone, I'm making this part up. This did not come from Brennan. But if you simply frame the situation that way, a spy is going to assume that you're going to turn him in if you stop spying for him, or at least it'll be a risk. So if you wondered, is the CIA a spy organization that's also a blackmail organization? The answer is apparently yes.
There you have it. Aside from the fact that they are illegally operating, I didn't say it, Mr. Stephen Miller said it, illegally operating in U.S. soil, they are using people to spy on us. They put the money bait and then they blackmail them. And blackmail is also a crime. These are just, when I call them criminals, I don't do that in vain. They are absolute total government criminals that need to be exposed, prosecuted, and thrown in jail for life. And if they're traitors to this nation, because spying people in this nation, that's treason. That's a whole nother story. Now, I found the video where Brennan admitted. Listen to him. Now he's pretending to be like Mr. Nice Guy because he doesn't want to get.
I think sounds like blackmail.
Hold on. He doesn't want to get, I think, accused of something. I don't know. Let me see how I can move this here. Give me a break because I am having some trouble moving the. There you go. There we go. Let's go.
Agents, the people that you recruit, foreign citizens, if they are hesitant to continue to spy for you, you can remind them that when they were first recruited and they signed a sheet of paper saying that they had taken some money from us, which is usually what happens, that you could remind them about that, almost as a way to scare them into continuing to work with you.
تضغطون عليهم as a pressure.
Yes, and I said to the instructor, I said, that sounds like blackmail. And he got rather angry at me and said, it's not blackmail. This is the security of the United States we're talking about. You have to do whatever you can in order to keep people on working for the CIA. Agents, the people that you recruit, foreign.
There you go. Well, there you have it, admitting that he engaged in blackmail as director of the CIA. In Spanish, we have to a saying in the legal world that when somebody admits something, you don't have to present evidence to prove it. So speaking of Operation Mockingbird, which now we know it's alive and kicking, Catherine Henrich has new reporting going on the federal employees victims of Havana syndrome. As you know, she has been working, or maybe you know or not, she's been working on this for a whole year. Let me show you. The interesting thing about her is that she doesn't want to recognize
that these attacks began in 2016 with a cluster.
She doesn't want to recognize civilian victims. And that's why I have been asking for all of you that have been diagnosed, please send me your affidavit, because I already had that one meeting, and I'm going to talk about that in a little while. But it is people like her that need to be confronted with evidence that I have here, affidavits of people that have been diagnosed by Dr. So-and-so on this date. So I don't understand why I have already 14 from the United States, one from outside. I need you to send me listen to her, your affidavit, listen to her.
This week, new developments in our year-long investigation into directed energy weapons that target U.S. government personnel, including military operatives, diplomats, and spies. Based on our reporting, there appears to be a false narrative that these attacks began in 2016 with a cluster of cases in Cuba. The debilitating neurological symptoms are commonly known as Havana syndrome.
So she's saying that they started in 2015. Now, the person she interviews, I'm not even going to bother putting her here, because I don't know if she's like trying to provide misinformation intentionally. She says she was attacked in a hotel in Yugoslavia, and that there was a service panel semi-open in the hallway, and that she saw somebody run away, and that it's all in a classified report. Well, for us victims, we know that that's not how directed energy weapons work. So I find it to be a little bit like misinformation. So if Ms. Hedrich asked, because she interviews Giordano, she asked Giordano, can you have a directed energy weapon in a service closet in a hotel? He would immediately tell her no, because he knows. So that's when you have to be very vigilant and not believe everything, because sometimes it's other agendas are going on in here. So then she went on to say this.
Throughout our investigation, we spoke with a dozen Havana syndrome survivors, and like Christie, they allege there's an intentional effort by some elements of the U.S. government to downplay the severity of their injuries and cast doubt on the cause.
So, well, this is good that she's saying it, because everybody knows that the CIA and the intelligence community is obstructing the fact-finding process. And as a matter of fact, that's why Congress referred the intelligence community to the DOJ. That, of course, we don't know if Ms. Bondi is going to do anything, but for investigation, for criminal investigation. However, Ms. Herridge has ignored Dr. Lambert's post regarding the civilian registry, and she has even ignored, let me show you, because I did post to her. I said, I have evidence of 14 civilians diagnosed with Havana syndrome. One has a confirmation letter by Dr. Giordano. It's a national travesty. It's not just the feds. The nation needs to know the truth. Her reply, crickets. And so it's, what I want to ask you, digital warriors, is please follow her. And when you can, share this with her, because here, let me show you. It's not Russia or China. They're still in that narrative. And so Targeted Justice published a really good article that I really urge you to become acquainted with it. Because you see, if Russia or China attacked our civilians or our federal employees in our national territory, there are low-flying satellites of the national, let me read this, the National Reconnaissance Office that would detect them, and it would be considered an act of war. That is precisely why the CIA has said there is no evidence of a foreign nation involved. I really urge you, this is very, very good. It's got great information for you. And whenever, just keep the keep the link, so that when you can when you are following Miss Herridge, you can immediately copy this link to her. Okay. Now, I don't have much hope that she's interested in covering the plight of civilians. I hope she surprises me in a different way. But I did tell her about the 14 affidavits, and maybe it was blocked from her. It could have been. Anyways, as I mentioned last week, we did meet with a member of Congress who is in the Homeland Security Committee. So he now knows that there are at least 14 civilian victims. That is why I tell you, if you can send me under confidentiality your affidavit, I would only share it with people like Ms. Hedrich or like people in the Senate or Congress. We need to prove that this is a silent epidemic happening in America. However, if you are not diagnosed, please do not write an affidavit, because that would be perjury. Okay? I want to advocate for you. I want to advocate for those that have been diagnosed, and for those of the thousands of us that have not been diagnosed. But we need to push the issue with Congress and with the NIH. And if you provide me more evidence for me to do that job, well, all the better. Do not just stay at home and I'm not going to do anything. No. What did you do today? Because I cannot do it all. I need you. I need you to provide me with the information. Okay. Now, Pam Bondi, let's go with the next one. Pam Bondi happens to have unveiled a new watch list. She's doing exactly what Trump said could not be done with a government weaponization executive order. She is putting people that exert their First Amendment right on a list of terrorists. I'm not saying I am against all these Antifa criminals, okay? I really am. I think that burning things down, there she is screaming again. Pam Bondi officially directed the FBI to assemble a list of Americans who may be considered extremists. So she's going 180 degrees to the other side. See, the Biden administration had all the MAGA people, all the patriots, all the J6ers, all of them declared, all the people that oppose COVID mandates declared terrorists. Now she's doing the same thing. And again, there is no reason, because if the FBI sees that they're burning things to the ground, they just have to arrest a person. but they don't have to be making these criminal watch lists based on people's First Amendment exertion of First Amendment. Again, I do not condone violence. I do not condone any act of terrorism. That's why they haven't been able to charge me with anything, right? But she cannot perpetuate what President Trump already said was wrong, which is the government weaponization. So she has instructed the Department of Justice and the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force to increase investigations into Antifa and other extremist groups. This comes after President Donald Trump designated Antifa, both at home and abroad, a terrorist organization. Fine, I agree with that. But, you have to be very careful because somebody, there's a lot of people with Trump derangement syndrome. Not necessarily are they Antifa, it's just that we have to be very careful. She has to tread very carefully here. Now, the targets that she has stated are include people showing opposition to law and immigration enforcement, support for mass migration and open borders, radical gender ideology, or views labeled as anti-American, anti-capitalist, and anti-Christian. Again, I oppose all of that. I oppose mass immigration. But the problem is that there is something called the First Amendment, which she doesn't seem to be respecting in this directive that she is doing. So more on that will be revealed. What I do advise you is stay away from all these controversies. If you are a victim of government weaponization, don't be protesting ICE. Don't be, it's like my mom is saying, it's like you are seeking to get more problems. Just keep straight in your lane. Do not go join protest here, protest there, because you are only feeding what they want, which is to get more information or predicate on you. Just stay on your goal of being set free from this criminal program. Don't engage in this conduct that she has already publicly stated she is going to put in another watch list. I hope that makes sense to you. I just stay here and go to do my job of freedom, and no protesting, because my only protest and my only activism is to expose and shut down this criminal program. Anyway, so the FBI has a tip line for this, and that is, it's like the same tip line they had for MAGA patriots, for the J6ers. Now we know that the J6ers were entirely entrapped from the very beginning. These people after the elections, they had all that time to do the research on them and to entrap them. So that is why they had, they spied on the phone calls, and they were trying to connect senators and representatives with the J6ers. Okay, so as you know, the Biden administration was interested in the domestic terrorism, but it was the opposite side. So there has to be some reckoning carried out, hopefully by somebody working around Miss Bondi. So this plays into the United States is proposing a rule that would ask for, this is for people in these countries here. Let me show you. So these are the people that can travel to the United States without a visa. And now they would ask for 5 years of social media for any visitor, all their social media posts. I don't know how it's a rule that has been proposed. It's in the Federal Register by the Customs and Border Protection. And they don't know yet how they would do this. I mean, how are you supposed to just get all your social media posts from the past 5 years without, how are they supposed to detect? Yeah, do you think they're not going to clean them up and delete whatever social media posts will not be favorable to them coming in? It just makes no sense to me. So they are proposing to ask visitors from several dozen nations that enjoy visa-free travel to the United States to submit additional personal information before entering the country, including 5 years of social media history, the Department of Homeland Security said this week. Now, these are 42 countries that would be affected that are in the visa waiver program. I say the data that they ask is not just social media. It's going to be also email addresses, telephone numbers used during the last 5 years, as well as addresses and names of family members. What that tells me is that maybe what they're trying to do is increase the amount of targeted persons outside of the United States, because they know that we're going to be shutting it down pretty soon here. We're not going to stop shutting it down, and they want to continue their little criminal program, which we're not going to allow it. So the public has 60 days to comment on the proposal as pursuant to the Federal Register. Now, regarding speaking of Miss Bundy, it seems that President Trump is not very happy with her, and it seems to be pondering substituting her with somebody else. He even did a Truth Social post telling her, "Hey, Pam, we sent you the evidence. Everybody has sent you the evidence. What's going on? Why isn't anything happening?" And one of the names that has been thrown around is that of Mr.
Will they go on that list?
Hold on, Mr. Trey Gowdy, which, as you know, this is like one of my favorite clips by him. He used to be a senator, and right after this moment, that for those of you that haven't seen it, you're going to love it. Right after this moment, he was offered an amazing job at Fox News, and he was basically taken out of the race to shut down this criminal program. Watch.
Let me ask you another question about the terrorism list. What process is afforded a U.S. citizen, not someone who's overstayed a visa, not someone who crossed the border without permission, but an American citizen? What process is currently afforded an American citizen before they go on that list?
I'm sorry, there's not a process afforded the citizen prior to getting on the list. There is a process should someone feel they are unduly placed on the list.
Yes, there is. And when I say process, I'm actually using half of the term due process, which is a phrase we find in the Constitution, that you cannot deprive people of certain things without due process. So I understand Mr. Good's idea, which is wait until your right has been taken from you, and then you can petition the government to get it back. I understand that that's his idea. My question is, can you name another constitutional right that we have that is chilled until you find out it's chilled, and then you have to petition the government to get it back? Is that true with the First Amendment?
Sir, there are strict criteria before.
That's not my question, ma'am. That is not my question. My question is, what process is afforded a United States citizen before that person's constitutional right is infringed? Then he's fine with doing it with the Second Amendment. My question is, how about the First? How about we not let them set up a website or a Google account? How about we not let them join the church until they can petition government to get off the list? How about not get a lawyer? How about the Sixth Amendment? How about you can't get a lawyer until you petition the government to get off the list? Or my favorite, how about the Eighth Amendment? We're going to subject you to cruel and unusual punishment until you petition the government to get off the list. Is there another constitutional right that we treat the same way for American citizens that we do the Second Amendment? Can you think of one? Can you think of one?
I don't have an answer for you, sir.
All right. Well, I'm out of town. Constitutional.
There you have it. That's yeah. Somebody said that's my favorite clip, and you know what? It is my favorite clip too. I don't know. Recently, he made some unfortunate comments saying that I don't quite remember, but it was basically that somebody who had done something really terrible shouldn't be punished, and I don't know if he's been mind controlled or what, but certainly he does. That clip tells you that he knows the connection between being on the watch list and being tortured, being on the terrorist list and being tortured. He knows. We don't have to tell him. And he also knows how hard it is for each and every one of you to get an attorney to petition for redress of grievances. And let's just hope all of that is going to change. Now, Mr. Patel, who is says there's an ongoing criminal investigation into the federal personnel involved in the controversial Biden era Arctic frost, which, as you know, was discovered, and it is great for us because it demonstrates the illegal surveillance that was perpetrated by the FBI against these senators. And now they're so irate that they are going to investigate. They're doing impeachment hearings for Boasberg, and they're investigating this to the T. Well, he says that he's investigating these people. He revealed the existence of the probe during a wide-ranging interview on Just the News. But here's a problem with his expression, and it is that two people bring to the attention of everybody that if in fact he is investigating the people of Arctic frost, here is whistleblower Kennedy. Ask him why the GS-15 who oversaw Arctic frost is still employed at the FBI. They're lying to him. Then you also have this comment by another man that knows a lot about the swamp, who is Mr. Roger Stone. Here he goes. He says, okay, let me remove this. Give me a second, because the criminals, you know how this is. Remove. He said, Roger Stone says the following. Let me show you. From stage. Okay. Image file. Please excuse me because I don't know what they do. Okay, here it goes. This is Mr. Stone. So the same FBI agent who tried to pressure Proud Boy leader Enrique Tarrio into saying falsely that I, Mr. Stone, was his liaison to President Trump on January 6th, is now heading the investigation into the pipe bomber. So what we have here is that in the two most important investigations that Mr. Patel is heading, which is the pipe bomber and the Arctic frost, you have there people that are clearly Biden loyalists and people that are not necessarily doing the transparency work that needs to be done. So you have to wonder, they're taking him for a ride. I think he's just being naive. More shall be revealed. Now for the updates. So as it pertains to what I'm doing here in DC, I'm going to tell you of things I do after I do them, because I don't want the criminals to obstruct them any more than what they do. But because, as you know, you say, oh, well, they can read your thoughts. No, it's the CIA and the U.S. Space Force criminals that can read the thoughts, and probably the NSA people that have access to my computer, but they do not necessarily communicate with the boots in the grounds because they don't have the secure the security clearances to do so. So for that reason, I would much rather, because I know many of them are here listening to what I'm saying. Hi, criminals. We're coming for you. Okay, so anyways, just a few reminders. Number one, do not speak to yourself about what you're going to do in your house or in your car, because there's microphones everywhere, and even your phone is a microphone. You're alerting them so that they have the posse, the perp posse waiting for you wherever it is that you're going. That is one thing that I have learned the hard way. Also, this Saturday is the second Saturday of the month. The Targeted Justice monthly meetings will no longer be while I'm here. They're going to be held here in DC. So if you are in the DC area, please, in the show notes, you have the email address, dmvtigroup@proton.me. Write to us and we will send you where we're going to be meeting. It's this Saturday. And the time, it depends on where we're going to be holding it. Okay. Now, everybody is filing their Privacy Act requests, and FBI is fighting back, but we're fighting back harder. We already posted, Targeted Justice already posted a form, an example of what you can write in the dispute resolution. We already know there's one of the TIs, she already sent it and they already denied it. I am going to be also posting examples of appeal, because even though the Privacy Act does not state that the appeal is a required jurisdictional step that you must take prior to filing a lawsuit, well, so most courts have interpreted it, because since the FBI did its own little regulation, most courts have interpreted that it is required. Since we don't want to have to engage in that argument, well, we will provide for you both targetedjustice.substack.com and anatoledo.substack.com for examples for you to adapt and to file your own. It's by no means legal advice. It's just an example to facilitate for you to do it. We need every single one of you to do this, because we have cornered the FBI criminals. The revelations, the exposure by Senator Grassley of the prohibited access and the restricted access files in the Sentinel file system tells us they have no discretion to determine, because this is what they say. Oh, we looked in the central record system. No, the Privacy Act says that they have to look in all the agency records, 5 U.S. Code 552A. And the best news is, which I have been researching it, they cannot charge you to show you your records. They cannot say, no, it's going to be $500. No, they can't. 2 courts have already, and especially the DC court has already adjudicated that. Moreover, pursuant to the case that eradicated the Chevron rule, which is Loper Bright versus Raimondo, Loper Bright Industries versus Raimondo, they cannot say, no, the Privacy Act doesn't say that. No, that case says you look at the statute, and the agency cannot make up their own laws regarding the statute. They can only implement regulations pursuant to that statute. And that is what every single one of you have no excuse. We posted in the Targeted Justice newsletter an example. There is a permanent and long example in targetedjustice.com, activism, how to fight back, okay? So you have no excuse. It doesn't cost you anything. It only costs you the postal service, because I highly recommend you do it with tracking, with priority mail and tracking number, and you save it, okay? Why is this important to do it now? Because 2 years ago, we did not have the declassified electronic communication by an FBI agent that Senator Grassley exposed. With that, now we know that their criminality, the FBI has been hiding their criminality in those prohibited access files and restricted access files. So you need to specify, you are not going to limit the search. The Privacy Access is all agency records. You don't get to choose where you look. Okay? So now the next thing is that this is a question for you. I want to know if you felt today the aggressivity. There was today the heart frequencies were off the charts, and so HAARP. These are they are a type of mind control because in as much as they elevate your anxiety and aggressivity, these are frequencies that oscillate between 2 hertz and 40 hertz, which is the brain, that's similar to your brain frequencies. And by putting massive signals that ricochet off the ionosphere, it is distributed around the world in many of the antennas that repeat the signals. Like there's huge HARP in Puerto Rico. And so they put those signals out there and it affects everybody. So even though it's not RNM or V2K, it is a type of mind control because it affects your emotion. So they put it out there today. It was really, really high level. And I wanted to know if any of you felt these. And the way I combat it, the lighthouse explained to me that the reason they don't do it every day is because if they did, your mind would adjust to it. So they only do it, they do it selectively. And I wanted to know if any of you felt it today. Well, the way I combat it is with the TENS unit, which I'm not wearing now, but I am wearing the TENS, the pads on top of my ears with the TENS unit, and that this really, really helps me not just with these anxiety frequencies, but also with, when they give you sleep bombs or when they give you crying bombs or sadness bombs. Well, that really helps me. It might be something you might want to try. And of course, the Silent Night, that it's, for me, it's a lifesaver. And for those of you that have the W band, somebody had been written to me because of the publication I made, the zapper of the 15-volt zapper, for me, it's just, indispensable to minimize their, their attacks. Now, I just want to cover 2 more things. And one thing it's really important for all of you. The medical profession must be really nervous because we are exposing this program. And along with it, the culprits, the medical doctors, the white robes that have colluded with it, they're going to be exposed. They're going to be humiliated. So now we have reports from TIs that have gone to hospitals and they have overheard the nurses say, oh, he thinks he's being followed by the government, when the person had not said anything. I advise you, please, do not go to a hospital unless it's absolute emergency or absolutely necessary. They are not your friends. The medical profession, except for a few good doctors out there like Dr. Priester, like Dr. Kirk Moore, like Dr. Bowden, like Dr. Bear, like my beloved Dr. Mihalcha, the medical profession is compromised. They are not your friends. So exert good judgment and don't fall into the trap of being placed in a 72-hour hold. If you are going to give away flyers of burns, and don't do it as a patient, you do it as a concerned citizen. The way I do it is I give the flyer and I say, here, I just brought this because maybe some of your doctors or nurses might encounter some of these injuries and you might not know what they are. Here's some information for you. Bye. But I don't go into a hospital with any kind of condition and say, oh, this is what is being done to me. No, it's a recipe for disaster. Number 2, no hospital can give you any treatment for directed energy weapons attacks because there's not even a diagnostic criteria. That is what Dr. Len Berry has been fighting for. with NIH and CDC. So they're not going to stop your attacks. And what might turn out to be is that they might take actions that will hurt you. Aside from the fact that you can get injected with nanotechnology or taken into an emergency surgery and implanted. Okay? I'm not saying if you don't have an emergency, don't go. I'm not saying that. I'm saying think about it twice and think if it's a real emergency. That is what I'm saying. That you cannot trust the white coats. I learned the hard way. And if I can save one of you from being horrifically implanted, I will do my best to stop that. Finally, I want to share something with you because sometimes people are very very easily criticize and say nasty things to others. And this is something that, it's kind of an oldie but goodie. And I wanted to bring it to you before you speak, but I want to extend it before you write. Before you react, think. T, is it true? H, is it helpful? I, is it inspiring? N, is it necessary? K, is it kind? Review your social media posts and evaluate, do a self-assessment and see if there's a little room for improvement there. We at Targeted Justice are fighting to set everybody free. And I urge you to just do this evaluation before making any comments or criticisms, because we're doing the best we can every single day. Like James O'Keefe says, my price is my life. And I am willing to give it all for freedom. So thank you so much for being here. And sorry I took so long. I didn't mean to take so much of your time. I really appreciate it. Your prayers are very much welcome and appreciated. So is your support. Thank you to all of you that have supported my mission here in Washington, D.C. I am close to my goal is giftsandgo.com/Toledo for those of you that want to continue supporting me. And I really hope to see you next week. And I hope I have really good news to bring to you. Until then, have a wonderful week.